Hello, good morning, and welcome. My name is Jessica, and I love all of the things fantasy, sci-fi, paranormal, awesomeness of romance.
Lovely. I'm Emma, and yep, I love all the same things too. And we are here to share our love with you.
With all of you lovely people
Yeah.
today. So, yeah, we were saying it's gone super fast. This is week 5.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
I think this one comes out the day after Halloween.
Oh, not long now.
Not long. No,
My creepy senses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Got to get my
we
decorating done.
Yes, I know. Oh, all the awesome things. We should put some pictures up when we've done that. We digress already. Hello, welcome. This is week 5 of the SFFRomCast, and we are bringing you all of the cool magic today.
Yeah, that's it. And literally, cool magic. That was the title, not just magic.
Yeah. No, cool magic.
It's got to be cool magic.
So it is.
It'll be interesting to see what I think is cool magic and what you think is cool magic.
Well, this is it. I've already warned you have to stop me once I get going. Yeah. So, yes. So, are we ready to get going?
We are ready. Let's go.
Do it. Yes. So, yeah, I struggled at first. This is the one that I struggled with the most out of everything. The villains was obviously fine, and next week is a given. But this one, I don't really do witchy, I think. So my brain was kind of, which is really weird because we started with Wolf Gone Wild, which, though it's wolves, it's all of the Savoy sisters who are all witchy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and to me, that was kind of where I was looking at it like magic that they used and created, whereas a lot of the stuff I read is vampires, werewolves, demons, and they've kind of
like
got
magical creatures.
Yeah, inherent magic that is just there. So it was weird for me. But then when I found my first one, I didn't stop. So this is where somebody needs to pull on my chain. And
have you got 3 for this one?
No, I've got 2.
You've got 2 for this one.
Yeah, I struggled, and then I was doing my notes on my first one, as I told you, and then it was a page and a half, and it's like, I've got to stop now because we can't talk all day. We can, but not on this.
Yeah, but we'd have to go pick up the kids at some point.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
If I don't, then the phone just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing until I get there.
It's really irritating when we're trying to talk about magic.
Yeah, other useful things, but you know, such is life. So yes, my first book is called Poison Princess, and it is by Kresley Cole, who was my starter book all of those weeks ago, because I loved her, and I still do. It's a YA, it's a love triangle, and there's a baby involved. So it has a chunk of stuff that normally don't go up my street.
Run away! I shout to myself.
Yes. But it is, I love it so much. And the last in the series comes out at some point, hopefully this year, touch wood, but she's not been well.
Start?
I don't even know. I can't even know.
How many are there in this series?
My brain is saying 3, but I think there is another one that she did which should have annoyed me, but it really didn't, which was like a summary of them, and there's loads of redacted bits, so there's just big black lines everywhere.
Why?
Okay, I'll get into it and explain it, and then things will make more sense. So the book is about, we start with a girl called Evangeline. She's 16, and everybody calls her Evie. And there's 2 weird starts in this. The book starts with her in a cottage in the middle of somewhere, explaining her journey and her story to somebody else. And it ends with the finish of the story up to that point, and it's really well done. But her actual story starts with her going back to school the first day of term after just being in a mental institution.
Right.
So that's all good. And so, the thing is, she's been seeing and hearing things for a good few years, which is why she's in there. But the things that she's been seeing and hearing are kind of, it's unsure whether they are real or not, because her grandmother has been kind of implanting things into her head since she was very small.
Right.
So what her grandmother tells her is that she is part of this massive game that kind of comes every few millennia. And she is actually a player in this game. And every player in this game is part of the set of tarot.
Yeah.
So if you know of the tarot,
Mm-hmm.
they're like a deck of cards. You can play cards with them. There are 22 major arcana, who are the ones that you'll know: the death card, the lovers, the moon, that sort of stuff. And then there's minors, which are the cups and the swords, that sort of stuff. And Evie's grandma told her that she is the empress in this deck. And every so often, a massive catastrophe happens in the world. And all of these 22 players come back, and they have to defeat each other. And there's the one survivor who stays on the planet, and then the planet regrows and becomes as it was again.
I see. Yeah.
And then,
that's epic. Mm-hmm.
It really is. And there's so much that goes on, which is why I kind of, once I start, I just keep going. So we start with Evie on her first day into school, and she's got her boyfriends there. That everybody is stuck around her. Her grandmother has been moved elsewhere because they kind of thought that she was causing these mental episodes in the daughter, the granddaughter. Sorry, she lives with just her mom. Her dad died years ago. They're in somewhere in the South in America. He kind of got sucked into a bayou or something. They don't know exactly what happened to Dad, and we've not heard any sight or sound after, but it could come up. We've got another book. She's going into school, and as she's there, they're quite well-to-do, all the kids in this school, but they've got some kids who are coming in from the bayou. There's 4 or 5 of them on motorbikes, dressed as not very preppy, should we say. And there's one lad there called Jackson who kind of takes a bit of a liking to her. Yes, I did think you'd like it. Who takes a bit of a liking to her, and he speaks like Cajun French, and her grandmother taught it to her, so they kind of mock her and everyone around them with their own language that she kind of understands, and you obviously see there's a link there. But so just going through the motions, and each day that goes on, she starts to see things and hear things again. And it's like the plants start talking to her, and she kind of, there's like something out there calling to her, and then all of these other voices start calling to her, and basically all of the cards are starting to awaken, and they all have their own like call sign. So one of them is a dude called Matthew, who's like crazy like the fox, and she just like hears this while she's walking, and it's like she thinks she's going mental. And then the world kind of implodes, something goes on, and there's just like a draw. They're in the house, and there's like a massive drawing to go outside, and nobody knows why. So they're all kind of going, and then she gets like this voice in her head going, don't, stay in. So she pulls her mum back. There's a massive like whitewash, and basically 90% of the population is killed. That's it. But they're not necessarily killed. They turn into weird flesh-seeping zombies that kind of loiter around the place. But so basically there are so many things that go on. So the magic, let's talk about the magic. So it's so good because each person's magic is linked to the character that they are in the tarot set. So as the Empress, she is the mother, she is rebirth. So she can grow plants, and she can kind of grow food. So because of this massive explosion, the world is kind of destroyed, plants are destroyed, there's not much food, it doesn't rain. So she doesn't realize very quickly that she has these powers because she can't grow, there's no fertile ground. But she cuts her hand and her blood starts dripping onto the soil, and then crops sprout up. And she's like, okay. So then she starts experimenting with that as the books go on, and she can grow things, and then stalks start coming to her when she's walking, like the trees that are there, things start pulling towards her. She can then start to feel life under the ground, the seeds, everything. So she draws her magic through all of that sort of stuff, and it's just so well done. So Death is in there, obviously, and because he has to be when I've read it. So he whatever he touches, he kills. That's his power. So he's had no human contact through life. He killed his parents when his maturity came in, and he kicked in and his game started. So he killed his mom, his pregnant mom, killed his dad. And then
just adding that just to show you the layer of darkness. This is one of Jess's books.
Yeah, there's a level, and then there's the end of the cliff, and then you fall over the cliff and it's still coming at you. So yeah, but he touches Evie at one point and realizes she doesn't die.
Yeah.
And then that's obviously the next thing. And then there's Matthew, who I've said, who is the fool card. And he's kind of, in this book, he's the child, he's got learning difficulties. And obviously everybody treats him like an outcast. But Evie doesn't. She can kind of see that he's a person, as we all should.
Yeah.
But, you see there's so much more going on under that first original veneer that you're there. So Matthew has so many different traits that he uses that are just not on the surface.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things. Every single card, every 22 of these cards has their own power. So the world can turn back time by spinning the wrong way.
Wow. Yeah.
And there's just, to go into every single one, there's just so much detail in all of this, and so many different little tweaks of magic. And even the game that they're playing is, stop me in a sec. Sometimes it's kind of insinuated that the gods created these characters,
right,
and they're kind of doing it for their own amusement. And the game, somebody gets to choose how the world is destroyed, and it will favor certain cards over others each time they play it. So the Empress is on the back foot with no rain, no plants, no anything to feed her power, whereas the Sun card, with this massive bright explosion, he can kind of draw the energy from that. And then there's chaos, because obviously the people who do survive are all fighting for power or food or fuel. So if there's chaos involved, then I think it's the Hierophant does something, and he gets people in and draws on their instability. And it's so good. Every
do you meet
layer.
All of the 22 then in like the books that you've read, or are you still waiting to meet some?
I think there are one or two that are mentioned that haven't been brought forward. And spoilers, so many spoilers already, so many to come. Yeah. So basically the point is they're supposed to kill each other off. There's only one left at the end. But they gain friendships, and they gain like links together. So you meet a group of 3, and they want to kill Evie off to start with, because she's the Empress. She's a big, powerful card. But they kind of end up being nice to each other and forming an alliance. But then when somebody in the alliance gets killed off, you gain their stamp on your hand, and she's slowly being friends with other people. She's gaining a big chunk of stamps on her hand, and it's like, okay, how are you actually playing this? And then we realize, because the game's happened before, there's memories from other games, and she's double crossed people many, many times over, because she goes and finds her grandma, who's not dead. She didn't die in this massive explosion. And her grandma says, oh yeah, I'm a chronicler. I have your entire history and every woman in our family who has been an empress. So then you find out it's like a hereditary line, has done this. So her grandmother is trying to turn her into this mega killing machine. And it's like, these are all my friends. What are you doing? And then Jackson, who is the dude at the beginning, he doesn't seem to be anything. He's not a card. And then somebody says, oh, the hanged man hasn't been named. We don't know who it is. Somebody's been writing it down as they've met everyone, because we've no idea who it is. So it's like implied through books and books that it's Jackson, and then it's not, it's somebody else. And it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then she's pregnant, and then she's with Death, and she's with Jackson, and she leaves one to come back to the other one. And then somebody else gives her up to the other one. And it's like, oh my God, the roller coaster
ride. Yeah.
And that's not even thinking about 22 lots of magic, plus 4 suits of cups and swords who favor different people. I am just...
Wow. Yeah.
I could do a podcast on just book 1.
Yeah. That is...
Not with you, obviously.
Not with me, because I started it and I've not continued with it. I don't know. I mean, now you've explained a lot more about it, I might push through and try and see where I get to with it. Yeah. It does sound like that is some really epic plotting.
It really is. I've not I can see why one book would take forever, let alone this last book in the series. But so because of these cards and how they work, she did like a compendium with like all of the 22 cards and how they work and what they do. And if you know of tarot or have read the books, that if they face one way, it means one thing, and if they face another way, it means something. So she's done like a booklet of each character and saying, well, this is the Empress this year is Evie. She has an affiliation with death. She's worked with Temperance, who's the world card, and I think Tess, her name is. And she's always had a close relationship with the Fool, which is Matthew. So you go to Matthew's page and it's got Matthew, the Fool. His calling card is Crazy Like the Fox, and everything else has just been blacked out. And there's like 3 or 4 words in his statement. And it's like, what do those 3 or 4 words mean? How does it make any sense? And he is the key to something and you don't know what. And it's, it's a very deep hole that I get myself into when I start rereading these books, which I've not yet.
I think that's the most you've talked about any book all series.
Really, it's crazy how I get into this. Rob is just done with. He's like,
he just goes watching a film in his head when you start.
Like the monkey's there with the symbol. Well, this is it. This is probably why he buys me the tarot cards. He's like, you know what? Just go and look at your cards, babe. Go and have a look at your cards and
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, you go. It's all fine. But so that is my book, and it is awesome.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting, because what I noticed when I picked my books for this was that, I mean, I read a lot more like witchy type books than you do. But what I also noticed was that the magic I seem to lean towards and like a lot is a lot less defined. So you've gone for something that's like really epically like, there are rules, these are these people, these are these roles, and mine are a lot more I want to say it's like sort of kind of low fantasy magic, but it's not, because they're proper fantasy worlds, but it's just that the rules there are a little bit more hazy. So
well this is the thing, isn't it? So if you don't write it or you don't do courses on fantasy and world building, it's kind of like magic has to have something there. And a lot of rules make sense, because otherwise you get to the end, the world implodes, but I've got magic, I can fix it. Yeah,
you can't have like a sudden thing that just occurs to fix everything, and there was no hints that was going to happen. There was no like, you know, just like that trail of breadcrumbs, even if it's like they don't realise till the end or something. But the reader's got to have had that kind of idea. I'm definitely not down that road. Not that I'm not into magical realism as such. So magical realism is a bit more like, I heard it explained the other day and it made a bit more sense to me, because I've always struggled a little bit. I thought of it just as like, oh, that's the literary version of magic. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's a bit too highbrow for me.
It gets into like Booker Prize. If you've written a magical realism book, you can get into Booker Prize. If you don't, no. If it's genre, but it's a little bit more tricky than that, I think, because it's in literary, because not only is there obviously a long history that goes back with like Latina type stuff with like the Gothic and things like that, but also that it's, if you don't realize when you're reading it, if you can't tell whether it's really happening or not, like if something's happened and you question whether or not the character is imagining it or it's really happening, then it's magical realism. So that's that made a bit more sense to me, because I've definitely read books like that and been like, what? But is this real? Is it what's gone in? I don't know. That's what I look like when I read literary books.
Is it though? This is it. I want you to hit me in the face with it. It's like, here's magic, bang, thanks.
I need to know. That's it. I'm like,
just black and white.
My brain just spirals. It just goes completely crazy.
Cool. Your book.
Anyway, my first book is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Reid. So, as you can imagine, it is a sort of Red Riding Hood retelling, but it's very loose retelling here. So what has happened is it's like this other world that there are the heroine is Ivica, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Always.
She's grown up in a small village, and in the country that she lives in, basically, the main city, the king has moved over. I think it's a few generations down the line. They moved over to a new faith, the Patra faith, and they're kind of like they've pushed out all the people that believed in the old gods and who have magic and can practice magic. Some of them tends to be women. I think it's all women. And they've been pushed out to live in like villages and things, and they're kind of persecuted. And the king has the Woodsman, who are they're like soldiers dedicated to, you know, getting hold of the magic and, you know, pushing it down and stuff like that. And they grow, the boys grow up, the Woodsman, and they grow their hair, and they cut it off at 18, and it's because it's based on sacrifice, and it's like they have to show they're giving things away to the Patra faith, like is all based, okay, it's really tricky to explain, but they have magic, but they don't call it magic. So they say it's answer to their prayers. So they see it as faith. So if they have sacrificed enough, then they will have their prayers answered. And the larger the sacrifice, the more likely that is. Yeah, and hypocritically, they want to get rid of all of the people who believe in the old gods, which is
because they've not sacrificed enough.
Yeah. And in Avika's village, what happens is every year, so that they're left alone, kind of in peace, the woodsmen come and they collect one of the witches. I won't call them witches, I suppose they do.
The women.
But the women that can practice magic. Now, Avika can't do any magic. She's the only one, and she's been ostracized in her village. She's the only one that can't do the magic. And they come, and the sort of the head lady who's been looking after her, because she lost her mum. Her mum was taken by the woodsman when she was tiny. Her dad was like a traveling merchant, and he didn't stick around. He was gone, and it's, you know, another reason she's not looked after very well. But this woman, I think her name's Virag. That's either her name or that's her role. I can't remember. But she has a vision that they're gonna take the new seer. They've got like 3 different types of magic. I think it's healing, fire maybe, and fabrication or something like that. But then there is the 4th, which is a seer, which is really, really rare. And she has the vision that they're going to take this girl who is going to be the new seer. So she swaps her with Avika. She's like, we can't afford to lose. It's harsh. It is harsh. And they all wear these really cool like wolf cloaks, different color wolf cloaks, to like show which designation they are. Exactly. So they take her. The woodsman arrives and takes her, and they're going through the woods, and they get attacked, and it's such an enemies to lovers thing. He's not just a woodsman. She realizes pretty quickly that he's no kind of soldier, and as things go on and they're stuck together and their party dwindles because they've gone through these woods and there's like creatures and things that are attacking them,
you don't mess
she
with magic.
realizes he's actually the prince.
Okay.
He wears an eye patch because his eye's gone. That was his sacrifice, so he can do more. So he can light fires and things like that. Yeah, so it's really cool magic. But what's really interesting that I loved about it was that thing that it's down to the people and what they choose to believe about the magic. Some think it's faith, some think it's just magic, and that's okay. And how they kind of come together and build their relationship is that they tell each other the stories that they learn about their faith and the tales and things like that, and it's kind of like how much that is integral to their magic too. So it's really clever. And also when I read it, it was so good and it was so involving that I managed to ignore the fact that the big bad guy is called Nandor, which it's just, it really threw me to start off with, because he's like my favorite from What You Do in the Shadows. And it's like, yeah, every time I was reading it to start off, I was like, I can't take him seriously. He's such a softie. But then you meet him and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Oh no, you're not.
He is crazy. Yeah, it's really good and fun, but dark. Got quite dark as well.
It's like when I do listen to our podcast, and I listen to the Dora one, and it still makes me giggle. Just what is in a name? So many things.
When you get this association with a name, sometimes it's very, very hard to get rid of it. Absolutely.
Well, this is it. It's like giving your child, your firstborn, the name of your worst enemy. You can't. It will just. There will be a divide there.
Yeah, really weird.
Mine is named after the dude in Terminator, though, so that's fine.
Sorry.
Reese is named after the dude in Terminator, Carl Reese.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She may hate that when she's older, but
it's
all good. One of the many reasons the kids will hate me as I'm older, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to hate you anyway. Might as well do what you want.
Yeah. Could be worse reasons. But so on the back of that, mine is, again, the magic isn't so much Paul Daniels-y. Not a lot.
Scarred by Paul Daniels.
For anybody American or not British, he's a magician that was on the TV when me and Emma were kids, all the time, every week, like on a Saturday afternoon or evening. And 4 TV channels, you had to watch it. God, those are the days.
Yeah.
So mine
not Paul Daniels.
Mine is not Paul Daniels. It's not the pull the rabbits out the hat and stuff. It's kind of an internal thing again. So it is The Darkest Night, which is by Gina Showalter, which is part of another big series, because that's my thing. And basically what it started with all of these chaps who worked for the gods. They were epic warriors. They fought all of the huge battles, and basically they got a little bit pissed without having recognition or the power or all the bits and pieces that come with being this epic warrior. So Pandora was a thing. She was a person, and she had her box of goodies, and they were like, you know what, we should be charged with looking after that. And it was like, no, Pandora's doing a pretty good job. You don't need to. It's all good. And then, as they do, it's like, you mansplain, I can do a better job than she can. So they open Pandora's box because they're really pissed, and they let out all of the horrors of the world. So the gods are like, you know what? Because of that, you're going to house them. So basically, they take all these warriors and they shove these unpleasant things into them. So again, because it's me, there's death, there's wrath, pain, vengeance, all of these horrible traits that kind of manifest within the world are shoved into these massive inhuman warriors. So the book one that we have here is Maddox, and he houses violence in him. So, works for being an all-powerful warrior. But downside is every evening he starts to get this urge to hurt himself, basically. So every evening he sort of it builds and builds until it gets to like the point in the evening where he has to physically kill himself. He has to stab himself to death every night. So it's kind of that's magic manifesting in a very different way. So they all have to kind of try and live with this horrendousness inside them while still trying to use it to do a job and keep the peace and do all of these other things. But so this is where he meets Ashlyn. So she has her own kind of, again, it's not what you would consider magic. She can hear voices any place she goes to, like the whispers of the past are in a location and she can hear them. So wherever she goes, the stories and the tales that happened kind of come into her mind. So it's kind of more of the curse of them, I suppose, and how you deal with them and how you learn to live with them. So and they live in Budapest on the top of this massive hill, which sounds beautiful, obviously, apart from the murdering every night. They kind of notice that it's all surveillance up, and she's coming up this hill and she's drawn to this, and he's got the few of them that are there's him and there's Death are there, and they're trying to get her out the way because they don't want her to see this thing, but in the end she ends up there watching this dude as he sort of stabs himself to death. And obviously they end up together, so it doesn't end badly.
I like that.
So it's kind of it's how they learn to deal with the magic they have, and obviously the other half comes in, and it's just really well done.
Like a complementary thing? Do they have a balance?
She will come and help him balance his violence, and then I think, I can't remember if it's this one or if I'm confusing it with others, I think that he helps quiet the voices for her.
Okay.
I think, though that happens in a few books that don't.
Okay.
I think that's something that she kind of clings to him, because it's like, it's quiet, it's never quiet. And so she clings to him, and then he sort of realizes that actually he can modify the violence when she's around. And it's learning, you don't get rid of this magic you learn to live with it and to tweak it to aid. So it's and every single book has a different one, so the next person has it, and every single thing is sort of similar. You have the main and the partner who have these gifts or this magic, whatever you want to call it, and they're struggling with it. It's just too powerful, and they need something to balance out what it is.
Okay, that's cool. That kind of links to my second one, which is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which is, I think, quite a famous one. It's quite well known now. So this one is, again, it's complementary, but it's different in that they complement each other again with their magic, but they're both capable of doing magic. So the dragon is his name, but it's only like his stage name. He's not really a dragon shifter. Sorry, people, don't go in with those expectations.
We've got loads of others we can tell you.
We've got loads of other recommendations. Just scroll through the podcast list, you'll find plenty. So he lives in the big castle, which is near her village, and again he comes down and he selects one girl, and she's not the one that expects to be selected. She thinks her best friend will be, because she's the amazing golden girl, lovely. But he takes her back to the castle. Now they don't know what happens to the girls that go back to the castle with him. I think they tend to be 17 or 18, around that age.
We know what happens.
They don't. No,
do we not?
No, you think you know what happens. So because they're fine, they don't die, he doesn't go off and kill, they just leave. They never come back to the village afterwards, and they don't know why. They always just go. I don't know if he's meant to keep them a year or more than that. I think it's a year. So she goes with him, but what it is, he's selecting the person that he feels has the most potential for magic and is linked to the forest, and the forest that surrounds them it's like infected with dark magic. It's like a very spooky, if you love a creepy forest, this is brilliant for a creepy forest. But she goes to work with her, and she's just like helping out with stuff, and then he realizes she does actually have like this talent for it, but she goes about it so differently. He does everything with his magic very linear, very by the book. There's rules, there's like he's got all of his potions and he must do it a certain way, and she's much more instinctive, and she just goes with how she feels, and they kind of work together, and it's just the most tangible way I've ever read of magic being done. There's one particular scene where they first realize, and they're trying to do this spell together, and she's like kind of riffing, she riffs, and he goes by the book, and it like joins, and it just creates and manifests, and it's just wow. It's really
it's that really list fun. Again, chaotic magician, pantser magician.
That's it, exactly.
Which one are you today?
she's totally. They're very different. And I would say if you're going into it for the romance is light. It's there. It's definitely there, and it draws you through. But it's like, what's the difference between like fantasy romance and romantic fantasy kind of?
Oh, okay. Thing. Yes.
But
which is the big runner.
But don't I wouldn't bring it here if I wasn't going to say you're guaranteed what you want from
yes
this book.
Oh, that's what I'm there for.
Well, at some level, not all levels, you know. No, if you want fine. Monster romance levels,
that's you're what not going to get it for. Yeah, you know, we all need a bit of, you don't always want to have a steak. Sometimes you do fancy a salad.
This is it. I did have a third one as well.
I don't.
You don't have a third one.
No, that's fine. I can talk about my first one again if you like.
Yeah. I'll try to be really quick. But this one was another of the old YA ones that I used to read, which is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. And that's how can I do this one quickly? The magic in it is very cool because it's very it's completely linked to the race. There's like, it's like a kind of portal world. Karoo has grown up in our world, but she knows there are other worlds because she's been raised by this creature called Brimstone and a few of these others, and they're Chimera.
That's what we're going with.
That's Chimera. What we're going with. If I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. And she does errands for him, and these errands can be for him to go and get like things like teeth and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And she brings those back for him, and then he sometimes grants her wishes, like he's granted her the wish to be able to understand any language, or to fly, or just to have blue hair, just like without dying it. Lovely.
So cool. I'd bring anybody things for that.
And then there's like doors, and she goes to go back and it's sealed and she can't get back in after a certain point. And at the same time, this other race of magical beings, which she never knew about, is this very cool angel that he kind of wants to kill her initially, but then he realizes that he shouldn't. It is a real enemies to lovers deep story with that. But I just love like that what's happened is in the other world, the Seraphim and the Chimera have been at this centuries long war together, and the Seraphim don't realize that Brimstone is a resurrectionist, and what he uses the bones for and the teeth and things is to create the Chimera. So he collects the souls and then reanimates into different bodies and stuff, and it's really, really cool. There's like 3 books, and I want to read it again. When I was like flicking through to write notes for this, I was like, oh, I need to do a reread of this one.
Is it. We gotta finish the series first because there's so much. But I did find, so some of the other ones that I had in my head were that a lot of YA were cropping up. So yeah, I don't know if that's just because of recommendations I've had, because obviously I've been around you and the world that we're in with RNA and everything for the last 2 years, so there is a bit more of a witchy thing there. But then I go to Twitter and it goes a bit more monstery, but it was a chunk of YA. I don't know if we kind of reach a point and then it becomes less magical as we get older.
I guess like the magic that's what I noticed with, like, because my 2 that are more adult, they could also be on the cusp of YA. I think they're the kind of thing that, because they're young girls and they follow them and they have magic, you can almost put them in a YA category, but they're not. But they tend to go more fantasy and then lighter on the romance, because they're like more involved in kind of the politics and stuff like that, I think, of the fantasy world. It does feel like the fantasy romance stuff for adults does tend to be like the new train of witchy stuff that we've got going on. And then it's just more down the road of deeper fantasy, high fantasy type things. Apart from, like you said, magical creatures, which it's still magic.
It is, but yeah, it's the different levels of, because if you say cool magic, my brain does initially go to a cauldron and potions and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The one that I had is I'm using it for next week, so that was kind of, but again, that was YAE, and it was just my brain was kind of flicking through, and it's like it is. You kind of lose all of the fun, tingly fingered feeling magic.
Yeah, the spells and potions and things like that.
Or people need to recommend us more of this.
That's it. Come and tell us stuff. If you disagree with our impression of what we think.
Yeah, come and tell us. Let us know.
Come and tell us other things. Definitely.
But so that's it for the magic of coolness. But next week is this week was fantastic, but next week is a doozy as well.
It's the epic. You had to finish on it, really, didn't we?
It is the one. It just spans all genres, really, but it just works so well with fantasy because of how dark and how deep and how sinister and everything you can go with it.
You can just get those stakes so high with this one. So, do you want to say?
No, you can do this one.
Okay. It's enemies to lovers.
Enemies to lovers.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably mentioned already.
Billions.
Half of the books we've mentioned already have already been enemies to lovers because it is such a But I tried to get it like my picks for next week, like proper, full on. They truly are enemies.
Oh, are they really bad ones?
Properly. Oh, one of them's a little bit lighter, but we'll go into that next week.
So mine span so many things because I kind of think I snuck in like you did. I've got a bit of a. It's not a trilogy. It's not a duology. It's a trilogy, but I've picked two out of it.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I messaged you about one of them as well ages ago. So we'll bring that up.
Okay. We message a lot. My brain was just like, what message that? Not the one about asylums, no. Or about cooking humans.
That was yesterday's. It's one of them things. If I forget what I've said to you at some point, I just have to ask you again because it will take me so long to find it because I just keep even Messenger has just gone. It's just
not worth it. It's not worth trying to scroll through. I just want to put a little disclaimer there. We're not psychopaths. We're not planning any mass murders or anything. Those two things just text me now were research related.
Yes, they were.
Writing. Yes. Okay.
And if you live anywhere in the Midlands and you hear anything on the news or the radio, it was not me.
It was not her. No.
But yes, join us for Enemies to Lovers because if you don't, you're just mental because it will be fantastic.
That's it. I mean, it's cool if you don't like it, but come along and be convinced.
Yeah, come along. Yeah, let us convince you.
Yeah, I mean, Jess has almost convinced me about a love triangle.
Yeah, I know.
So,
wait until the last books come out though, so you can do all of it with me. We can do a read along, and you can sit going.
Poison Princess is going to end in terms of the romance.
Oh no, the series. Oh, I've no clue. See, now we're in the world of the why choose. Why choose is the big thing now, whereas it's been done a while because I've gone through this series way too many times to mention, but we're in that thing now. People don't they don't like the will they won't they, so
just have both.
So if the new one is written more recently, she may even go that way, though he's death, so he can't touch anybody else. So
it kind of limits you, doesn't it? That's the thing, isn't it, when you've got that. Well, that's another matter we'll go
that's a very that's the series 4 that one is.
Okay then. Well, join us. Find us on social media to tell us about your cool magical books and where you find the juicy fantasy romance or sci-fi with magic. If it's sci-fantasy, I guess. Sci-fi doesn't really come into magic, does it, as much?
No, not so much.
More technology machines. Is the magic. We're on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, and you can listen to this on all of the podcast providers, or you can jump onto Spotify or YouTube and see us.
Yes, hello.
Lovely.
So thank you for joining us if you did. Come see us next week and have a lovely time till then.
Bye.